If you are anything like me and are thinking, I just really don't want to talk about legislation today, but we kind of have to. You have a home here. Welcome to the Go Show, celebrating all things outdoors in this beautiful outdoor playground of a state and world that we live in. Now, I know this is not a political show. This is not my political program. I am not even going to get into Republicans, Democrats. We just have to talk about legislation that is currently banding about our House and Senate right here in the great state of Arizona that has some pretty interesting thoughts behind it. So it's kind of like it has to do with off-road vehicles, off-highway vehicles, OHVs is what they call it, ATVs, side-by-sides, quads, and all of that. So it's like a three-way ATV pileup going on, okay? Because we have conservation, we have safety, and then we have industry. So those are all colliding right now, and we should probably talk about it, especially for those that like, especially in this weather. Are you kidding me? Are out bouncing around on their side by sides and hooking up someplace for lunch and just having a great day out on the desert. So let's chat about that as well. And a huge win out of Nevada. Do not call it Nevada. Out of Nevada, that is a mirror story to what happened right here in Arizona. So we get to talk about that as well. A huge conservation win, and it's just awesome. So let's dive into this right out of the gates. I have to let you know that. Well, first of all, the lighting with my hat on here is I'm having a hard time with it. It is reminding me to sit up very straight. I can't slouch. I'm hearing my dad, God rest his soul, in my back right now. Shut up straight. So I'm sitting up straight. Anyway, so I grew up around boats. I started at the age of 12 driving a 19-foot Liberty jet boat in Bass Lake in California, on Bass Lake, California. That is where the movie The Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd was filmed. I grew up driving boats there. I grew up water skiing there. We'd spend the summers there with my father. And I had always, this is a little preview of what we're going to talk about with OHV, which boats are OHV, off-highway vehicles. I always thought, how am I getting away with this? I don't have a driver's license. I should not be doing this. So it was 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way up until I had a driver's license. I was driving a boat. I'm good at pulling skiers. I was pulling adult skiers. Yeah, I was pulling people that just wanted to ride, just wanted to go out and just bounce around on the boat for a little bit. Sure, why not jump in? Yeah, that kind of craziness. Anyway, and I always thought, I don't know how I could get away with this. How am I driving right now? How is this legal? Then when we started this program about 11 years ago, I remember asking one of our wonderful people for Your Arizona Game and Fish Department that handles off-highway vehicles, how young is too young to drive a boat? Here was the answer. Legally, if the person can operate the boat to the dock or ramp, and everyone else is like, had way too many beers, they can do it. Whoa. Still mind blown. So that's where we're at with me when it comes to being out on the lake. There are pieces of legislation being introduced in the Senate that has a lot to do with education in off-highway vehicles. But I want to start with one where I'm going to go backwards here. So conservation, safety, and industry. Let's start with industry. The industry is advancing. Remember when you wanted to, the industry of the cell phones started going real smaller until the point of like Zoolander, they made fun of it because it's a little tiny little, the world's smallest phone. And now they want to get bigger screens, bigger cameras, all of that. So it's just the evolution of an industry. The same thing is happening in the quads, the side-by-sides, the ATVs. So the ATV industry, and I'm absolutely blown away when I saw this because I was at the board meeting last night for Arizona's Sportsmen for Wildlife Conservation. And we bring this up because it's a group. It's basically a group of groups, a group for groups. So we're all represented. I'm there representing Wildlife for Tomorrow. And we discuss what's going on in the world of Arizona conservation, including legislation. So when this was brought up, I was floored because there is a new Polaris ATV. And by the way, if anybody wants to give me a Polaris Commander, I think it is, anybody wants to just throw one of those to me, I'm all about it in every way, shape, fashion, or form. Please just send me one. I would absolutely love to have one. I'm not ripping on Polaris by any means. It was just that was what was. I'm sorry, the General. That's what I meant to say. The General. Um, I'm not ripping by any stretch of the imagination, but they have evolved as a company, which is advancing and evolving the industry. Their new Polaris Expedition. How do I put this? Does not meet Arizona state requirements. Actually, it exceeds the weight limit, the weight maximum for ATVs and UTVs. It just does. It is over 2,500 pounds. 2,500 pounds is the max. And this expedition is closer to about 3,000 pounds. You put my dad bod in this thing and in some accessories, and you're about 3,500. You're between 3,000 and 3,500 pounds. That's a lot of weight. But now, when you see the evolution of this thing, and I'm looking at this right now, it's a beautiful automobile, but it's just that it is an automobile. This is a car. This looks about the size of if not a little bit bigger than a RAV4. It is totally enclosed. It looks like a little Bronco. Looks like a little Ford Bronco. And I'm thinking, what the wow. Okay. So basically we now just have cars off-road instead of vehicles that are meant to be out in the desert just for fun and recreation. We're now just bringing small automobiles out onto the desert and doing their thing. And let me tell you something. Let me see here. 1991. Yeah, the statute of limitations definitely over on this one. My sister had a Suzuki Samurai. If you lived out in the West Valley in the early 90s, trust me, you saw this one. It was obnoxious. My parents were in the wheel industry and they had a lot of friends in the car business and detailing and just tricking out cars. And they did it up for my sister with the Suzuki Samurai. Holy mackerel. It was all kind of obnoxious. Trust me, you saw this thing coming. We got 15 people in there one night. And it was Suzuki Samurai. Yep, 15. Yeah. My parents don't know that, but my dad, God rest his soul, he's gone, and my mom doesn't watch the show. So it's all good. So it's fine there. 15 people we got in this thing. I think I get 15 people easily, a lot more comfortably in the Polaris Expedition AD5 North Star. Tell you that much. Holy cow. So why am I talking about this? I'm definitely decidedly not advertising by any stretch for Polaris or the ATV industry. I'm not advertising. I'm a huge fan of the ATV industry. I'm a huge fan of off-road vehicles. I've been to every abandoned mine you can see on the California side of Parker and on the Arizona side of Parker. I've been all around. I love being out on ATVs. Absolutely love it. So I'm not bashing this by any stretch. But I do know that we have weight limits for a reason. And we have weight limits on vehicles because maybe it's after a rain, maybe it's during a rain, what that can do to the trails, the people taking, bouncing themselves off of the trails and around and just crushing wildlife and plant life. I can understand why we have that. When Polaris is kind of the leader in evolving this larger ATV space, they're involved in this. There is representatives, there are lobbyists from Polaris and the industry that are trying to get, and this is SB 1052. If you're keeping score at home, SB 1052 will increase the weight limit for Arizona off-road vehicles to 3,500. Now, here's where I have a problem with it. Outside of just the obvious 1,000 more pounds out there bouncing around in the desert and doing what ATVs do. Aside from that, my issue comes down to honesty. And this is where I have a problem because I don't feel that the industry and what I read this morning was it seemed a bit disingenuous. Because we need batteries for the hybrid and electric models that are going to be coming out quite soon. So we're going to need a weight limit increase because those batteries are super heavy. Those electric drivetrains are super heavy. So we're gonna have to increase the weight. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And by the way, do you see a lot of electric charging stations out there in the middle of the desert? No, you don't. So no, it wasn't. I don't like the dishonesty in the argument. The argument should just very well be, this is the demand of the public. This is what the public want, as evidenced by our sales and our pre-sales and our used sales and all of that. You should see what we have in these larger vehicles. It is the demand and will of the people that we are able to have off-road vehicles that are over 2,500 pounds, because that's where the industry is going. So we would like the state to evolve with us. You see, that seems like a more rational argument. Unfortunately, we're dealing with electoral politics, so there's a lot of other things at play, but just be straight with us. I honestly think we, the people, just want to get shot straight. We really do. And we don't want to get shot. You know what I'm saying? We want any information shot to us. We want it straight up. We want it done like respectfully. And when I mean respectfully, it doesn't mean you can't raise your voice and get fired up and animated about it. I mean, respectfully is just treat me like an adult. Treat us like an adult. We, the people, are what fund all of y'all making this decision, making these decisions, and being out there in the desert and contributing. We are the contributors. We're your customers. See, you're not the product. We're not your product. We're your customers. So shoot it to us straight, and we're going to participate in the argument. But these arguments are like, oh yeah, in the future of electric ATVs. Okay, well, when there's a slew of electric ATVs, okay, we'll talk about it then. Just because these ATVs are getting bigger and they're essentially small cars or SUVs, use that as your argument. Shoot that straight to us. But here's where I get to the problem. The problem comes from we're dealing with conservation. And when it comes to conservation, we need to speak to biologists and scientists. We have to quite literally trust the scientists, not the science, the scientists, and what they see and the data that they bring and the models that they have, what they see on the ground. We have to trust that. I don't trust a politician to make this decision for me, because I might be wrong in saying that the increase from 2,500 weight limit to 3,500 weight limit for an ATV out in the desert is it's nominal. It's not a big deal. And if that's the case, then okay, then now my opinion changes, because a scientist, a wildlife biologist told me, yeah, that's really not going to play a big factor in conservation. It's not gonna decimate the landscape. Okay, cool. Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, then I think we're good. We can do that. But no, I have a lobbyist telling me this because it's just the way the industry is going to go. No. And it is the way the industry is going to go, but you're just telling me it's going to go a different way. I don't like that. I just don't like that at all. So the conservation part of this is tough to me, and I want to hear from real biologists, real scientists, those that are educated in this and those that are studying this. That's what I want to hear from first. Second is industry. We need you to be honest with us. And if you are, we're going to be cool. And everybody's going to have a wonderful and great conversation. Cool. Good. Now let's get to safety, what I started with. Remember, conservation, safety, and industry all colliding in this big kerfuffle going on in the Arizona Senate right now, when we're being asked to increase certain things, do things a different way. There is SB 1055, I believe it is. This is, and trust me, I went to look at each and every one of these bills. It is almost impossible to find, because let's be real, it's government. This is an education. This is an education portion of this. Now, we'll go back to when you heard me talk about driving a boat when I was 12 years old. And I mean actively driving a boat, not driving a boat because dad hurt his hand and he couldn't hold on to the wheel or something like that, right? This thing had a loud pedal on it, man, stomp pedal. It wasn't one of the, I had a gas pedal with no brake. That's the way I love to roll. But again, I was thinking, 13 years old, how am I doing this? How am I out here legally? Am I going to get in trouble for this thing? Nah. They're cracking open another one. Go, son, have fun. Okay, fine by me. And so SB 1055 has to do with education. Now, your Arizona Game and Fish Department will essentially author a course that anyone that that has to get an ATV stamp for the ATV, basically the registration and license to operate off highway, you're going to have to take that class. You're going to essentially have to get a license. I love that. I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers right now. I absolutely love that. I'm sorry. I believe that should be the same way for boating too. Period. There are rules to the road that nobody knows. There are rules to the lake that nobody knows. If we know them, it can only, sure, it'll tick people off, but it can only make things safer, period. Because there's ton. Look, I am a firearms enthusiast. I have a lot of firearms in my home. Not till I took my concealed carry class did I really learn what you can and cannot do with a firearm in your home, defending your home and protecting yourself. Had no idea. But people would look at me and say, Mike's a responsible firearm owner. Mike's a responsible, he practices, he's safe most of the time. And they wouldn't think he doesn't know what he can and can't do in a home. So if people have been boating like me since they're 12 years old, driving a boat, if they have been like me, driving a vehicle since I was 13, my grandfather, God bless him, my grandfather had me driving trucks, big trucks of scrap metal down Grand when I was 13 to 14 years old. Again, God rest his soul. He's not going to get in trouble. My mom might find out about this right now. But I was doing that. So I know how to drive and I know how to operate a boat. I have been out on more ATVs than you've probably ever seen in your life. And I'm good at it. I've up and down, racing, all that stuff. Done it all. There's stuff I don't know that you can and can't do. Last night during our discussion at the board meeting, I was like, whoa, wait. I didn't know. Wait, you can't do that? I didn't know. Yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean 25 miles an hour? What does that mean? What is 25 miles an hour? What are you talking about? No dust cloud. What is this, a no wake zone? I don't understand. See, there are things I didn't even know. So that makes me either more conscious on how to get away with some of these things, or just realizing that I'm outside of the bounds of I'm outside of the legal bounds set forth by the state and the Arizona Game and Fish Department and the conservationists and the biologists they're in. Okay. So the problem with the education part of this and the big dust up was mainly, and this was just the discussion last night, was mainly, hey, look, I'm in my 70s. I don't need anybody to teach me how to drive. I've been driving a boat since I was 12. No one needs to teach me how to drive. That's an insult to me. Okay. I get your point. I really do get your point. Problem in that point is that that's not the point. The problem in that is that I've been driving since I was 13 years old on the roads here in Arizona. I still have a question. When does the speed limit start? Does it start when you see the speed limit sign or when you pass the speed limit sign? I don't know. There's things I don't know, even though I've driven this long. And the more I know in the rules of the road and the laws here in Arizona, I'm a safer driver. Or again, I just know how to get away with stuff a little bit better. Okay, fine. But the fact is that you don't know all the rules to OHV in Arizona, boating in side-by-sides and off-roading. You don't know all the rules. I don't either. So why would that be bad if I wanted to go and buy an ATV at Ride Now Power Sports and they're like, okay, dude, you gotta get your class together and we're gonna get you your stamp. Okay, cool. Okay, it's not a big deal. It's not like a cooling off period or anything like that. It's not like I wake up one morning and I'm like, it'd be really fun to get out in the desert today and do some off-roading. So let's go buy a $35,000 Polaris because I want to go today. That's not how it works. So depending on, and obviously we're dealing with government here and, is it going to be a day-long course? Is it going to be a half-day course, couple hours course that you should take? You take it online. I doubt you're going to have to go to a class. So probably going to take an online course. It's going to probably be an hour or so and you're off to the races. That's it. And you learn something. Again, in my half a day class with Tim Forshee at Scottsdale Gun Club, a half a day class for concealed carry, I learned more about the legalities and just basically handling of a firearm than I knew my entire life. And I've got a safe full of firearms. So it's the same thing. If you can spend 2 hours, 3 hours, everybody has, you're out there on the boat, you're out there on the trails, and you know that everyone else that has that stamp, everyone else at least knows or has been taught or sat through the rules of the road. It makes things better. That's my opinion. And where this came from, by the way, is my fear of I'm 13 and I'm out here driving a boat, is the hatred. Check this out. And I know a lot of anglers out there call the term, a lot of anglers use, especially tournament anglers, for sea-doos and jet skis, is lake lice. Yeah, that's how beloved they are on the lake. The folks at Bass Lake, when I was younger, at the advent, basically the beginning of like they call them wet bikes and sea-doos, and they were all over the lake too, and they hated them. And their big push was everyone should have to get a license to operate one of those. That was their big push there, to make those people safe. Then I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, sounds like a great idea. So then same with the boats. Yeah. Same with the off-highway vehicles. Yep. ATVs. Sure. I don't see a problem. You know me. I do not dig expansion of government, but you also know me is that I know what a knucklehead I am out in the outdoors, and I know what a knucklehead all of us can be in the outdoors. So if something's going to take me a couple hours to make the entire state healthier, happier, and safer, let's go. Yeah, I'm not what is not being discussed now, this is an issue with SB 1055. I told you we're just talking about legislation that might be restricting or changing our outdoor world is when it comes to off-roading. Renters aren't discussed. So if somebody buys an ATV, buys 5 of them to start their own rental company, the renters don't have to go through and get this course. And the renters are the most likely, excuse me, I'll say this because it's not researched that well, are most likely the culprits when it comes to people acting like complete goose. Yeah. I mean, I think absolutely people acting like clowns. People that just coming out here like, woohoo, I'm in the desert, woo, and they're doing the donuts, and they're crushing cacti and knocking over saguaros, and yeah, and they have no idea what a cholla is. So I mean, the cholla might be our last saving grace there. Let's see, Scotty. I'm going to have to put my glasses on, boss. What do you got here, bud? I'd say the speed limit starts at the sun. I think that's the way it is too. Otherwise, yeah. No, I'm all about that. Yeah. And I'm gonna get Fridays with Frank. If you've ever seen this on YouTube, you gotta check out Fridays with Frank. Is fantastic. Pinal County Sheriff guy, good, big outdoorsman, huge outdoorsman, and just a funny dude. Has Fridays with Frank, which are his traffic stops. And oh my goodness. So I'll have Frank on. We'll talk about the outdoors, talk a little bit about that, because I have some driving questions I really need from him, including that one. Just want verification. That, and can you make a U-turn at a red light? There are some places you can. Yeah. So anyway, moving back to this, there is a need, I believe, for education. How that extends to renters, I don't know. Maybe it is something to the effect of, when you go to a resort and you want to go on a dive trip, that they give you the couple-hour course, and then you can go on you limited to like 40 feet or something like that on your dive. Maybe it's something like that. But I don't really know if you can give me a lot of examples where education can hurt. Okay. Easy. We're not getting into politics here. I know where you're going with that because my mind went to the same place. But where people that are out there dealing with very dangerous equipment. Look, I've seen more ATVs flip than you can imagine. So I know there is a bit of a danger in that. It's not. I mean, these are kind of open vehicles. I forget what they said, what they call a seat belt in the legislation. I forget what it was, but it sounded like something you're being detained. Sounded like something you're going to jail with. It was funny. It's a rider detention or rider retention system or straps or something to that effect. And then what the other piece of legislation is SB, blah, 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 and that just has to do with we're going to expand this kind of exploratory study for another year or two. So okay, so I don't think anything's coming down the pike just yet. I don't think any major changes are happening this year. So go out and do what you want. But do me a favor, just educate yourself a little bit on the laws of OHV before you go out there, and then just make everybody a little bit safer. Is that fair? I try to stay as neutral as I can, but I want you all to know my stance. And my stance is going to tick people off. I know it is, but I'm okay with it because it's my stance. You and I can have a discussion about it. You say, no, Mike, I don't think education needs to be. I don't think licensing needs to happen. I really don't. Okay, good. Why? And we can have this wonderful discussion about it. So please pop off in the comments if you want, and just we'll start a conversation. I have zero problem with that. I was sitting right next to a guy at the board meeting last night that just, I'm not going to name his name, but he was fired up about this. He did not want any of this. I'm not going to education. Okay, fine, cool. I would love to have a conversation when it got late. I'd go home, but I was like, come on, man, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. How about this? This is the Go Show, celebrating all things outdoors in the beautiful outdoor world that we live in. Let's talk about a huge win for conservation. When it all comes down to it, this is about conservation. This is about what we do. What I do is all about making sure that there is. That's why I sit on the board of wildlife for tomorrow, because I want passionately, I want more than anything to have my kids and my grandkids have the ability that I had to play in the outdoors. So it's all about conservation, all about conservation with me. So let me give you the headline, and then we'll go from there. Nevada's first ever moose hunt excites hunters as big game applications open. Nevada moose. Who had Nevada moose on your outdoor card? I had no idea that a neighboring state would just neighboring state like Nevada. Like Nevada, I see Nevada as most people see Arizona. Like, you live in Arizona? Or like, Las Vegas, like they have houses in Las Vegas. Yeah. If you don't frequent Las Vegas too much, if you just took our downtown buildings and turned them into casinos, it's essentially like Las Vegas. We're just a big sprawling suburb. So anyway, but you see it as desert and a lake and desert. That's really what you see Nevada as. So when you think about they have a moose season, what you talking about, Willis? You got a moose season. Yeah. They had them introduced years ago, and now they have a herd of about 100 moose. But what is wonky about the 100 head herd is the bull to cow ratio. And here's the cool thing about this, and this is something to tell the friends. Why do you hunt? Oh, yeah, you got beef at the grocery store. The Departments of Conservation, part of the North American Model of Wildlife Conservation, uses hunters to manage healthy populations of all species, period. Because even the 60 out of 820 species we have here in Arizona, those 60 need to be managed by hunters that actually help the other populations flourish. It's the great circle of life and whatnot. But this is a huge win because Nevada didn't have any. Now they have 100. Sound familiar? Let me tell you why this should sound wildly familiar to you, because it happened right here in the great state of Arizona. Now, let me tell you the story. Did you know that elk? We didn't have any elk. We didn't have any elk in Arizona. We have now about 35 to 40,000 head of elk. Think about that. We went from this many, 0, to tens of thousands since 1912. So in 100 years, that sounds like a lot. In 100 years, you have gone from 85, I think it's 83 elk that were introduced to almost 40,000, which my mind immediately goes to, one elk coming up to the other going, you look kind of familiar. What, do I know you? Are we related somehow? If you only knew. Some Adam and Eve stuff going on right there. So the big win for Nevada, they have a moose population is now huntable. Arizona had 0 in 1912. So when the 0 in 1912, I'm trying to get this back here. Here we go. The great reduction in elk numbers is attributed to market hunting and agriculture. The population low of 90,000 occurred in 1922. Of these, 40,000 were in Yellowstone Park. The park herds became kind of like a breeding ground, almost like a puppy mill, right? for stalking and breeding elk. So between 1912 and 1967, more than 35,500 elk were transplanted from the park. You've seen these. If you haven't, you got to take a look at how they do this. It's pretty incredible. So in February of 1913, I believe, I'm sorry, I said it was 1912. In February of 1913, 83 elk were released here in Arizona. And now the population has grown to over 35,000, between 35 and 40,000. How about them apples? How cool is that? Not a lot of people know that. And as a matter of fact, I want to say it's Pennsylvania. I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying it was Pennsylvania, but I believe it was Pennsylvania that Arizona then, I think we took 85 or 65 or whatever heads of elk and transplanted them over there. Maybe it was, I think it's Pennsylvania. And then so they can, in a few decades or in a generation can have an elk herd large enough to have to call and use hunters in the North American model of wildlife conservation. See, pretty cool. It's almost like a happy ending. But I can't believe that. Absolutely wild to me that there's moose in Nevada, and so many moose in Nevada that we can actually go hunt those things. We actually apply for a tag. Holy cow, that's pretty cool. Moose is on my list for sure. I don't have a lot more on my list. I'm not one of the exotic game kind of guys. I can be changed in that, by the way. I've just never really gave it a whole lot of thought because there's just an abundance of wildlife here in Arizona. But if something is available to me, I definitely want to take a look. But I'm telling you, one of the buckets is Alaska moose. So, and maybe now Nevada moose. I have no idea. But let's just put it here. Any kind of moose. I'm good. Yeah. There are very few mounts that I want on my wall. I'm a Euro mount guy. I'm a skull mount kind of guy. There are very few mounts that I want that I have left that I really need. And hopefully my tag in 7 West in November can help me get one of those because Daddy wants a big elk trophy. I do. Mm-hmm. And again, like Chairman Geiler of the commission, I have no problem saying this. I'm an unapologetic trophy hunter. I want wall art. I want a freezer full of meat, and I want something on my wall. Deal. Sorry. Oh, okay. Let's wrap it with this. Did you hear the news? $501,000 was just paid for the online commissioner tag auction for Arizona elk. $501,000. And the person that won it was just like, I don't care what the bid is, just add 1,000. Keep adding 1,000 until I get that. Until they smack the gavel and say, sold. Guess what? Keep adding 1,000. So 501,000 is what it went for. The topic of note is that it was there for this. It was Jimmy John. Yep. The guy that started or at least helped or was used as a example of the big kerfuffle with the Game and Fish Commission as to why we don't have auction tags. They used Jimmy John as example and public enemy number 1. Guess what he did? He's like, okay, you only got 2 or 3 left. I'll buy one. I have no problem with that move. I have absolutely no problem with that move. And my friends on the commission, I love y'all, but dang. Even I didn't see that coming. I'm one of the most vindictive dudes. If you go after my tribe, anyone of my tribe or you go after conservation, I'm coming after you. But dang, y'all kind of picked a fight with a dude that said, oh, well, just kind of poke back. I wonder if he's going to buy the other auction tags too. Could you imagine all 5 records in the state of Arizona belong to one dude, Jimmy John? I actually wouldn't be mad at that at all because, again, it's legal. So it is what it is. Hey, a cool show tomorrow. We're going to have one of my bestest pals, Slavo from Slavo Salt and SlavoSalt.com. Of course, go ahead and check out checkout. Go ahead and put Go Show and you get 10% off your order. But he and his daughter went on a really cool hunt that I got to be involved with. And I got to see like really cool daddy-daughter kind of stuff. It was really, really cool. Can't wait for you to hear the story. Princess Sloan herself will be be joining us tomorrow on tomorrow's program, and we're going to talk about parenting really in the outdoors, even when maybe the other spouse is not too into the hunting thing. How do you get your kiddos in there? So it's going to be a fun talk. I'm excited for that. And I am on my way right now to give my man Robert, the winner of the Canyon Cooler from the Game and Fish Expo. We're going to have to give him his cooler. We're going to go meet up and introduce myself to a fellow conservationist and hand one pretty cool cooler. So canyoncoolers.com, use the code GOSHOW, get 15% off your order there. So how about this? How about we do it again tomorrow? Tomorrow, again, 11 o'clock. We got the Slavos coming on, a really cool recap of a really cool family hunt. It's coming up tomorrow right here on the Go. Have a great afternoon, everyone.